Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be with you all today to talk about this topic. I know some of you are thinking, I had no idea there was an art to this. A few years ago, I was in Florida. I was at the airport. I had arrived at the airport, and I ran into some of the women that were going to be attending the conference. And we knew each other already because they had heard me speak before. So we made our way over to the shuttle section, and we were getting on the shuttle to drive to the hotel. And we settled in, put our luggage in, settled ourselves in. And the woman sitting right next to me says, "Julie, I am so glad you're here because I am losing my mind." And I looked at her and I said, "That is wonderful." And she looked at me like I had completely lost my own. And she said, "Wonderful?" And I said, "Yes, it's wonderful." I said, "When you are in that space, there is so much to discover there. There's so much emerging." I said, "And that's exactly why I am here." So you're going to hear more about this tomorrow. So I told her and the group, as I'm going to tell you today, because the question is, why would I want to lose my mind? Isn't the mind an amazing, beautiful, wonderful thing? Well, sure, it can be. Our minds are part of what got us to where we are today. But our minds can also be full of, and are full of, a lot of cultural conditioning and a lot of inner diversity that sometimes we're not aware of and sometimes we're too aware of. The mind can be full of things that tell us we're not good enough, that we don't belong in certain places, full of things that tell us we should act like this, we shouldn't act like this. We should choose this career, we shouldn't choose that career. We should choose this type of person, we shouldn't choose that type of person, and on and on and on. The mind is also full of beliefs about emotions, that we shouldn't feel negative emotions, and that if we do, it means that something is wrong with us if one of them stays around for too long. Now, I don't know how you can be human and live on this planet at this point in history or any point in history and not experience negative emotions often. So the mind can be full of information that tells us, show this part of you, hide this part of you. For instance, today I'm standing here in the red circle before you, this confident presenter that has all this information to share, that feels this information is valuable. But then there's this other part of me that is kind of introverted and would much rather be on my couch. And then there's my inner critical parent that shows up and says, "You know, Julie, I know you like to drop F-bombs. You better not get on that TEDx stage and start dropping F-bombs. You might offend some people." And then there's my inner rebel that wants to give my inner parent the finger. So there's all of this going on as I stand in the middle of this circle. And now my inner critic is going to show up and say, "I can't believe you're saying this in front of people. You can't tell people you have all these different parts of you talking to you all the time. They're going to think you're weird." And I say to my critic, "It's okay. We're going to be fine. Because, dear critic, you know I'm not going to show up and say stuff that I don't believe. And you know I'm not going to show up and not be real. And the truth is, if you're human and you're alive, that you all have these diverse parts of you. That we all have this inner diversity in us that tells us all these different conflicting things. And we value some more than others. And so then our minds become oppressive. And they give us headaches. And they should us all the time. So that's part of why it's important to lose your mind. If I asked each one of you, if I said, "Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to think too much about it. I want you to go with the very first thing that pops into your mind." And I said, "For 30 seconds, I'm going to invite you to lose your mind. What would you do right now for 30 seconds? And one of you might say, "I would scream." And another person might say, "I would weep." And another person would say, "I really want to wiggle. I feel so stiff all the time. I want to dance." And another person would say, "I'm exhausted and I'd love a nap." And every single one of you might say something different, And I would say, let's do that for 30 seconds. Let's just start with 30 seconds and do that, because you just learned something about yourself. You just got information about a part of you that is seeking expression. And I think we would be better off if we would allow that, not just inside of ourselves, but in our communities, in our world. So we want to learn to lose it with awareness. We want to learn to lose it with care and begin to use all of the intelligence that we have access to. You see, we live in a culture where we tend to put the intellect on the top of the pedestal. And we marginalize emotional intelligence, although we're getting a little bit better at that. And we marginalize the intelligence of our bodies, this being that carries us around all day, that is full of information. But we are taught mind over matter. And that can be and is useful until it's not. So we have access to all of this intelligence, but we put everything in one category and make it the most important, and then we are blind to the rest of the picture. So we're trying to solve problems without even seeing the whole picture. We're trying to solve problems with one beautiful but sometimes limiting part of us, and we are ignoring the access to all of this other intelligence that we have. Emotional intelligence, body wisdom, all very important, all life-saving in many ways. So we want to learn how to lose our minds that say, oh, don't feel sad, do something to distract yourself. Oh, don't feel angry, you can't do that, especially if you're a woman. That's not good. Don't feel negative, be positive all the time, be grateful. And we want to connect with the real emotion that's going on in us, and we want to connect to it with care. We want to realize and understand that our emotions, even and sometimes I would say especially the negative ones, tell us about where we might need to draw boundaries. They tell us about ourselves. They tell us about what we like and what we don't like. They tell us about the paths that we want to take in this world. They tell us about who we are and what we are made of. They tell us the truth about how we're feeling, and they show us where we need love, compassion, and attention, and sometimes where we need to speak our minds. We miss that if we turn away. And we want to go further than just recognizing, I feel sad, I feel angry, that's all very wonderful, we want to do that, but we want to go further. We want to access the intelligence in our bodies as well. So, where do I feel this joy in my body? What does joy look like? Where do I feel this fear in my body or anxiety? Where do I feel it? And I've never had anyone say to me, Julie, I don't feel it anywhere. They might look at me a little funny when I ask the question, but if they give it 10 seconds, the answer comes. Where do I feel this joy? Where do I feel this anger? Where do I feel this fear in my body? And ask ourselves that. We're deepening our connection with our own being, our own wisdom. And then, further than that, sometimes it starts with the feeling in the body first, where I might have a chronic symptom or a chronic illness of some sort, and I'm so used to the diagnosis model, because we need that, but I never tap into the intelligence that could be showing itself to me. So, Julie, I have this feeling in my stomach. Well, what does it feel like? What does it feel like? It feels, it's pushing out. It feels really hard. It feels like a rock in my stomach. And you said it's pushing out? Yes, it's pushing out, not in. It's pushing out. Wow, you have this rock in your stomach. What else does that rock feel like? It feels solid. Well, let's see if we can become the rock a little bit more. I want to get in touch with the intelligence of this rock that's in your stomach. Okay, I'm going to become the rock. Okay, tell me about that. Well, the rock is big. It's as big as me. My whole being is a rock. Well, what does it feel like to be a rock? I feel immovable. I feel so firm and sure. Things just bounce off of me. And I would say, well, is there any place in your life where you might need some of that rock? Where it would be useful for things to just bounce off of you? Where it would be useful for you to stand firm in what you're saying or in what you believe? And they say, oh, yes, actually, here, here, and here. Depending on the person, the answer's different. Depending on the symptom, the answer's different. But bringing our awareness deeper and deeper into ourselves, rather than feeling like we have to run away from what we're experiencing, rather than feeling like we have to hurry up and fix our experiences, how do we learn to settle into ourselves at a deeper level and access all of this wisdom that we are swimming in like a fish in water who doesn't know what water is? Connecting to our bodies when so many of us are programmed to hate our bodies. We rank bodies based on gender, race, age. We make thick bodies less important than thin bodies. And then we have all of this stuff going in our heads often. I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too tall, I'm too short. And that's just physical appearance. Then when things start to go wrong in our bodies, we begin to think we can't trust them, rather than thinking maybe something is trying to emerge for me too. Then if you put this on a spiritual level, some of us are told that in order to reach anything spiritual, we have to leave our bodies. That our bodies are somehow the seat of sin or temptation, and we can't listen to those. That will get us in trouble. So in all of these ways, we're taught to be disembodied, disconnected from our bodies that have so much support and help for us. We're taught to hate our bodies. This makes me want to scream, cry, and throw up all at the same time. All three. And really, we want to learn how to turn toward our body and say, dear body, all this time I didn't know you had things that you were trying to tell me. We want to learn how to befriend our bodies and even have greater contact with our bodies, which we do automatically all the time. People gasp, they put their hand on their chest. They have a headache, they put their hands on their heads. We do this all the time, and I want to say, stay there longer. My head hurts. I start rubbing my head. Rub it longer. Say, hi, dear body. I'm so sorry that you're hurting. You will feel like you've lost your mind. But I'm trying to take you to the art of that, to the wisdom that can emerge in all of these things that come up. We carry around a lot. We have a lot of voices that live in our bodies, and I want to hear them. I want to let them out more rather than continuing to push them down and push them down and push them down and wondering why we're depressed. I want to let the depression out. I want to let it talk to me. I want to understand where I feel it more inside of me. Our bodies have so much to show us. And even the act of doing this, I am touching my body. I am bringing my awareness to the fact that I walk around in a body, which I sometimes refer to as my baby or my pet, because I really want to try hard to learn to be better to it, to talk to it like I would talk to, like I do talk to my pet. I want to start to understand and consider that my body is a truth teller. It's not just this thing that breaks down on me and gets sick. Sometimes, yes, that's going to happen. I'm not trying to negate that that sucks and that that can be very painful. But I am trying to say there's also more. That the body is often trying to show us where we are one-sided in many ways. But it takes me learning how to connect with my body and learn its language, if you will, to get to that truth. To consider, oh, maybe there's something here for me to discover. One way I do this is the way I talk to my body. Now, let me say this. My dog gets sick. My dog is my world. She gets sick, and I'm like, oh, sweetie, come here. What's wrong? Let me rub you. What do you need? Do you need to go to the doctor? Do you need me to cook you something different to eat? If I have an upset stomach, well, luckily this has changed, but it used to sound like, you shouldn't have eaten that last night. Why did you eat this? You know you're not supposed to eat that. You know, now we're getting into diet culture and all the things. But the way I talk to my dog is totally different. So she's my gauge. She's my gauge for when I have tuned into my body and the fact that this being is important and carries intelligence. When I can start talking to me the way I talk to her, I know I'm on the right track. I mean, can you imagine? I look at her and I go, are you ready for dinner? And I say, do you want to go for a walk? If I can do that to me, I've made it. If I can say, Julie, you want to go for a walk? And then let myself get all excited and wiggle about it, I'm in a much better place. People might think I've lost my mind, but I think I'm more healthy. So we have to really consider what it means to lose our mind. And I hope that when you hear yourself or anyone else in the future say, oh, I'm losing my mind, or I've lost my mind, that you will take that as your cue to connect more deeply with your emotions and your body and more of you that is trying to emerge in that moment. And with that, I will tell you, thank you for coming to listen to my TEDx talk.